Good morning. Welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Reverend Dr. Robin Tanner. I'm a member of your lead ministry team. My pronouns are she and her, and I am so glad to be here with you today, beloved. It is a multi-generational service, this our annual bread communion. So hopefully as you came in, you got a little packet that says bread communion on the front. If you did not, Ingrid, one of our greeters, has extra packets, and she'd be happy to make sure you get one. After our service, because we are going to modify our bread communion a little bit, acknowledging the abundance of upper respiratory infections, unfortunately, as well as COVID. So if anyone's not feeling well, or if you know you've been exposed, I will have bread for you at the door as you leave. And for everyone else, we would welcome you to the upper balcony to partake of our many breads during our coffee hour, which is exactly one floor above us. If you are joining us virtually this day, I hope that there is some bread that can nourish you, and I hope that our words and music here today also act as nourishment. I would invite you to share your name and pronouns and where you're joining us from. My words are finding you from Summit, New Jersey, in our sanctuary located on the lands of the Lenni Lenape. Now, beloved, I'm going to invite those of you who are here in this space to do something we haven't done in a few years. Ooh, now your interest is piqued. What is she going to say? The exits are there and to your right. Now I'm going to invite you, as our friends online introduce themselves to one another in the chat, to introduce yourself to someone around you. Say good morning, share your name perhaps, and see who is in our sanctuary this day. Well, friends, it is a good sign when it is hard to stop. That's a very good sign. I remember this feeling of having absolutely no ability to call us back together again. So as we come back together, you'll have more opportunities to continue to connect and introduce yourself to one another during our coffee time in the upper balcony right after our service. You must have liked that to some degree. So I hope so. I hope so. It is good to be together, and even on this cloudy day in New Jersey, to shine some light, your light, right here at the beginning of our service. In my family, when we are getting ready to center in, or maybe if there's been a frenzied day that we've had, or maybe someone has just grabbed someone's Lego, I don't know what happened right before you came into the sanctuary, we do something called rainbow breathing. And it goes like this. We take a deep breath in and we bring our arms up. And then we exhale, and on the exhale, we bring our arms down to make the rainbow. So I would invite you to do just one more of those while I sound our bell and bring us to center.
We're going to begin by singing hymn number 16, Simple Gifts. This is a song from the Shaker community. And I invite you to stand in body or spirit as you like and join in singing number 16. gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where you want to be. And when we find ourselves in a place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight. So by turning we come round right. We'll do it again. 'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where you want to be. And when we find ourselves in a place just right, to be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight. So by turning we come round right.
Good morning, Beacon. My name is Karen Engelmeyer. My pronouns are she, her. This flame looks as if it is a single flicker, a whole unit, but it is not. This flame, made of particles dancing, some toward the center, others outside, gathering in oxygen to feed the flame for the next moment. It is a community of activity. It is a symbol of our own Beacon community. Different temperatures, different stories, different roles to make the flame endure. And this sanctuary, the vessel holding the candle, calling us to be bright this day, to rise up, to shine on. Please rise up and sing, as you are able, hymn number 362.
Right, O flame. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Vision and joy.
Good morning. My name is Kathy Menendez, she, hers, and I'm a member of the chaplain team here at Beacon. Our community candle lighting is a powerful ritual with ancient roots. Together, we light candles of joy, sorrow, and gratitude. Thanksgiving offers us a special opportunity to consider, appreciate, and share our many blessings. This morning, we light a candle of joy for family reunions, all kinds of families, and of community gatherings, remembering how much we need and love each other. A candle of sorrow for loved ones not able to be together because of distance or death, mistakes, or misunderstandings. And a candle of gratitude for all our Summit Warm Hearts volunteers. And another for our daily bread, or as my granddaughter wrote on her Thanksgiving placemat, She's 6. I am thankful for family, friends, and nature, N-A-C-H-U-R. And then she added, and pie. For this and for so much more, we invite you to come forward now to light a candle here in our sanctuary or wherever you may be.
John just played an original composition, something he had recorded during the pandemic and that people who watch the service online might have recognized as a prelude, and it is such a thrill to be able to hear it in person. So thank you for playing that again. The song we're going to do now is called Let Us Break Bread Together. It's something that I used to sing growing up in church, and at that time I did not realize that it was actually a spiritual, and that it is thought that this song was created by an enslaved person, possibly from South Carolina. So knowing that history and knowing that the arts and music in particular can sometimes help us grapple with history, I invite you to listen to these words. Let us break bread together on our knees. Let us break bread together on our knees. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me. Let us drink the cup together on our knees. Let us drink the cup together on our knees. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me. Let us praise God together on our knees. Let us praise God together on our knees. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me. Oh Lord, Lord, have mercy on me.
Thank you, Misa. As someone born in Charleston, I approve. We gather around these tables just after Thanksgiving and the day of mourning. Many of us have been told the story of the Pilgrims and the Native Americans gathering in peace for a shared meal back in 1620 as the first Thanksgiving. But we know now that this is not the full or true story. The land we are now on was once occupied by the Nanticoke, Lenni Lenape, the Powhatan Lenape Nation, and the Ramapo Lenape Indian Nation. Now these tribes live mostly near a small piece of land in Mahwah, New Jersey. Like the Wampanoag in Massachusetts, the Nanticoke Lenni Lenape were driven off their land, which they had lived peacefully on, by settlers from Europe. Like many other Native tribes and communities across the as-yet-to-be-developed United States, indigenous groups of people were blamed for things that went wrong. Without pausing to listen or to consider that those Native peoples were not to blame, the settlers destroyed families, lands, and the homes of the Native people. The settlers rejoiced when they did this, and they had a feast the day after. Native peoples mourned what they had lost. So the Thanksgiving feast, which we have yearly on the fourth Thursday in November, has some very troubling historical roots. For Native Americans, it is a day of mourning. Many of them mark this day beginning to dance at dawn to show how they have been resilient and have had the courage to continue their traditions and still exist. the settlers did not succeed in wiping them out. So as Unitarian Universalists, it's critical that we tell the true story behind our celebrations so that we may better commit ourselves to helping others and not harming.
With this historical truth in mind, Jessie Little Doe Baird, who is a citizen of the Mushpee Wampanoag tribe, vice chairwoman of the Mushpee Wampanoag Tribal Council, and a member of the Wampanoag Women's Medicine Society, shares how the Mushpee Wampanoag are fighting the dissolution of the treaty that protects their reservation right now. She writes, "As citizens of our tribal nations and of America, we will fight this battle as we always have, with dignity, diplomacy, and the knowledge that the story of Native people in America is a story of strength and resilience in the face of challenges. It is a story built around our strong commitment to family, shared responsibility to care for the land, and our sense of obligation to do right by the next generation. It is a story that is woven into the fabric of our American story, with threads that extend beyond the first peoples of America. In these uncertain and divided times, it is a Thanksgiving story rooted in mutual respect, regard, and humanity that can unite all Americans. With this story in our consciousness and our collective history, we celebrate with Thanksgiving the resilience of Indigenous people, while also remembering the lessons that are also part of the story. We celebrate, honor, and remember what could yet be, and the community here that acknowledges and respects the first peoples of America. We share now in a ritual of nourishment, connection, and gratitude.
And if you could turn to page 2 in your bread communion booklet, you can follow along and read along aloud the parts where we call for. And so we ask, why do we have a table here?
We have a table here because we believe in community, in what we have to give and receive from one another. We are created to be in relationship, and the table is our symbol.
Together we remember. Together we are grateful for new understandings.
Why do we have a cloth on the table?
We have a cloth on the table because each life is interwoven with every other life. We come here from different religious, ethnic, and socioeconomic backgrounds. The cloth is our symbol of the covenant, a tapestry that binds and upholds the individual threads of our lives. The thread reminds us to remember those who have been harmed.
Together we remember. Together we are grateful for new understanding.
And why do we have a chalice and candles on the table?
We have a chalice or candles on the table because we honor the flame within each of us that is rekindled by the warmth of loved ones around us and the flame of faith carried by our spiritual ancestors. This flame reminds us to share new narratives of our history and draw from many sources as we illuminate truth with the lowercase t.
Together we remember. Together we are grateful for new understandings. Why do we have flowers on our table?
We have flowers on the table so that we can remember to pay attention to the mystery and beauty of nature which continually surrounds us. Flowers bring color and texture into our homes as nature brings wisdom to our soul. Flowers born out of earth, reminders to live in closer connection with our earth.
Together we remember. Together we are grateful for new understanding.
Why do we have bread and grape juice on the table?
We have bread and grape juice on the table as gifts of the earth. They speak of the power of growing things. They ask us to wait for the ripening and harvest. They are our symbols of trust and abundance as our earthly origin.
Together we remember. Together we are grateful for new understanding.
And why do we have an empty chair at the table?
We have an empty chair at the table to remind us to welcome unseen guests at our table, siblings who share this earth and this life. The empty chair reminds us to give from our fullness to those who have need, so that we may all know justice and peace.
Together we remember.
Together we are grateful for new understanding.
And now let us share our bounty this morning by gathering bread originating from far and distant and close places around the world. I invite you to bring forward your gifts of bread as I describe it. Bread's made of wheat, which hands have kneaded, proofed, patted, and shaped into loaves, offering sustenance across the globe. There you go. I'm going to put it right there. Perfect. Thank you so much. Bread of einkorn, a wild species of wheat, one of the first to be cultivated over 10,000 years ago, remnants of which have been found in Turkey. I don't think this grain is 10,000 years old, though, just because you'll be eating it. Rice cakes harvested from the steppes of the Andes to lush paddy fields in countries across Asia, with people bending at the waist to pull up the precious grains of comfort food for many. Thank you. Bread made from barley grains and grass, which for centuries has sustained people in high elevation like Tibet, and today is the basis of malt beverages as well. Thank you. Matzah, the unleavened bread of freedom, remembered by our Jewish Unitarian Universalists and Jewish friends, and all those who struggle for liberation. These breads, also unleavened, called by so many different names: chapati, naan, paratha, roti, tortilla, grown in the soil of lands in which they are the staple, from India to the countries of Central and South America. Corn, which hands have shucked and shaved off kernels, ground, milled, mixed, and then shaped cornbread, a gift from the Southern Americas. Thank you. And injera from Ethiopia, Somalia, and Eritrea, sponge-like and risen from the teff flour. I'm still waiting for the Ethiopian food to go with it, though. As we share these daily breads of many cultures, harvested in the soil of our earth, watered by gifts of cloud and sky, we work toward the day when the abundance of the earth and her harvest is shared equally with all, so that all, everywhere, people are fed and no one is hungry. We'll share our bread during our coffee hour and participate in a collective yearning for the rest of our service.
And would you please stand in body or spirit and join in singing our hymn 349, We Gather Together. That's 349. Joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find now in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that
This is the first Sunday of 3 for a special plate collection committed to organizations that are working to alleviate food insecurity as well as housing insecurity. The 4 organizations that we have chosen this year to receive the plate include First Unitarians Food Pantry in Plainfield, SHIP, or Summit Helping Its People, Grace, and Summit Warm Hearts, which is a program of the Summit Interfaith Council. Here to tell us a little bit more about the Summit Warm Hearts program and its impact are Ken and Missy.
I was asked to keep it short in the interest of time. I could go on and on talking about the Beacon Church and Warm Hearts generosity. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. My name is Ken Schifrin. I'm homeless, going on 1 year, 9 months in Summit. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. This can happen to anyone. Trust me. I'm the former chief financial officer of the New York Mercantile Exchange during the years of when the exchange was taking public and did about two public offerings. I wish I had the time to go over my story and tell you exactly what happened, and hopefully I'll be able to talk to you guys individually at some point in time, and you can ask questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer them. I'm homeless as a result of bad decisions I've made. We're all hoping to be transitional homeless, getting out of our current situation as fast as possible. We are so appreciative of the financial and volunteer support we've received, but of all the general acceptance of us in your community. The Beacon Church for its support of its day program for the homeless, and for Warm Hearts' support of the overnight program. Thank you so much.
So just a little more detail for those of you who may not be familiar with Summit Warm Hearts. As Ken said, there's sort of 2 sides of Warm Hearts. There is the day program, which happens here at Beacon, Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and Sundays, 1 to 5. And that is volunteer-run, organized, and supported. We have lovely folks who bring lovely meals, and I can attest to how good the food is because I participate as often as I can in those meals. We have great conversations together. We, really get to know each other. Everybody's got a story. We all have stories. We have paths that our lives have taken, and I feel very honored and blessed that I get to learn some of the stories of the folks at Summit Warm Hearts and get to know all of you a little bit better as you volunteer as well. So that's the day program. The nighttime program started on November 17th this year, and the overnight hospitality happens at 3 different faith communities. This year it is Christ Church, St. John's, and Fountain Baptist. And it is the overnight program that really requires some funding. So we sincerely appreciate all that you have done. Hope that you can give today to help support Summit Warm Hearts and its overnight program. And if you can, come and join us as a volunteer as well. We would love to have you. Thank you so much.
In the 1800s, John Godfrey Sachs wrote a story that's been told and retold. There are many different variations of it, and I'm going to share one with you now. It requires a little bit of imagination, if you can offer up your imaginations this morning. Can we? Still? Okay, good. All right, that's good to hear. So I want you to imagine that there are 5 people who are students in a school, and they have never encountered an elephant. They don't know what an elephant is. They don't even realize that such a creature exists. They haven't read about elephants, no concept of elephants. And there is a teacher who decides to teach his class a lesson about how difficult it can be to experience or see something from someone else's vantage point, and yet how important it is. So, he brings an elephant to class. He asks these 5, as you do, right? You have elephants you bring to class. I said bring your imagination, goodness. So he brings an elephant to class, and he has the 5 students who've never encountered an elephant. They stay outside the classroom, so they don't know what's in there. All the other students are allowed inside the classroom. They're oohing and aahing over the elephant, and then the teacher says, here's the deal. You need to now be very, very quiet. You can't let on that there's an elephant in this room, and I need you to take your seats. So the students do as they're told, and the 5 students who don't know what an elephant is, have never experienced it, are brought in. But they're brought into the class in such a way that they either can't hear anything or can't see anything. They're not able to touch. Some are not able even to smell. So the first student has a cloth placed over his eyes, and he has earplugs in, so he can't hear a thing. He's led to a chair at the very front of the elephant, and all he can experience is the tusk of the elephant brushing on his cheek. And so the teacher asks the student, what is it that is in this room? And the man very confidently says, a spear. Wrong, says the teacher. The next student is brought to the very end of the elephant, and she also has a blindfold on. She can hear, but this is a very quiet elephant, and for whatever reason, the elephant isn't making much noise at all. Now, she feels the tail and feels how it ends in a little bit of, feels like string, maybe. She feels it again, and this must be a very forgiving elephant, because he doesn't seem to mind. And the teacher says, all right, you've had enough time now. What is it that you're touching? And the student says, very confidently, a rope. And the teacher says, I'm afraid not. Get it? Afraid not. Oh, wow. So first service is a bit more polite, I have to confess. Not that we're comparing, but they do like a little bit of like an honorary chuckle. But an outright boo from the chaplain today was not something that I anticipated. All right, friends, the third student comes in, and they are only allowed, they have a blindfold on. The blindfold is removed when they are about 2 inches from the elephant's stomach. They have a little perfume put under their nose so they can't smell anything, and they're not permitted to touch it. And the teacher says, what is it that's in front of you? And the woman stares for a while and sighs, it's just a gray wall. No. The final student is brought in. Now, this student is at quite a disadvantage. His ears are plugged. He's wearing glasses that don't allow him to see. He's also not permitted to touch. And the only thing he has is smell. He's placed right in front of the elephant's mouth. And the elephant is given a snack of peanuts. And he begins to chomp and chew and gnaw on those peanuts with such delight. And apparently this elephant doesn't have the best of breath. And soon an odor starts to come from his mouth of peanuts and something else that the man can't quite detect. As the elephant gets more and more excited in his smacking, chomping, and slapping and licking, bits of peanuts fly at the man's face. Despite the spray, he leans in, trying to get all the clues with his nose, and the class pauses with excitement, thinking at last he's going to get it. But the man says, "I don't know what it is, but it needs a breath mint." At last, all the students, of course, are permitted to see what they were experiencing, and they're all shocked to know it's a creature, a single creature. When I was in high school, I was part of a group of students who, despite getting good grades, we're now moving into confession, pulled a lot of pranks. I went to a Catholic school that went from 7th grade all the way through senior year. And by the time we were sophomores, we had already developed a little bit of a reputation. Every year, we would do a series of pranks in the fall, just a little bit before Thanksgiving, and kind of the ante was upped every year to get bigger than the last year. And so we had spent our summers figuring out how, with a flathead screwdriver and some skill, you could pop off the front of a locker without the combination and actually remove the whole door. We had made a plan that in between classes, some of us would have passes, others would ask to use the restroom, and we would all convene on the lockers of the 7th graders. The 7th graders who were always complaining that they couldn't remember their combination or that it wasn't working and they couldn't open the door. And we would help them by permanently removing the doors and stacking them up very quietly in a closet where it would take some time to find them. Our plan went off without a single hitch. All the doors were removed within a 5-minute window, placed in a spare closet, and we all went back to our separate classes as if nothing had happened. Well, by 3rd period, we started hearing our principal, Father Sheehan, call classes down to the cafeteria one by one. By the time he got to us, he had figured out that indeed we were the cause of the missing doors. And so he simply looked at us as we squirmed for what seemed an eternity. And then he asked, "My friends, do you know what the word sophomore means?" After a long silence, he answered, "Wise fool." Now, I don't remember the lecture that followed. After all, it wasn't the last or even the longest that I received in that school. But I do remember that phrase, that illustration, wise fool, that you could, on the one hand, be knowledgeable, have information, and even learning at what was an incredible school, and yet still be an absolute fool. The elephant story is a parable. It's not really about using your imagination to have an elephant in a room where people don't know what an elephant is. It's a story with a meaning, a story that illustrates how difficult it is to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to really understand another's story, truth, experiences, perspective. In the story, of course, the elephant is life, and we are all the students experiencing this life for the first and what many of us believe will be the only time. How do you collect information, gather knowledge and learning in such a way that it does not lead to solitary conclusions? Many of us, I would profit, have a relative or a friend, an acquaintance, a coworker, maybe you saw them over the holiday, that sources their information from one single place. And maybe it's a place you don't agree with. And they share that knowledge with confidence, right? With certainty that it is a tale that they are holding. But in truth, the harder thing to look at is not the hyperbole of this person who you disagree with, but the ways in which it's very easy for each of us to become one of those students shouting about the spear or the wall or the rope. I went 2 days ago with my mom and 2 of our children to see Wakanda Forever in the movie theater. I was a little nervous, to be honest, to be in a public place, not so much because of COVID, but with the recent shootings, it made me nervous to be in a public place, and there were police all over the theater. And I thought how sad that that is our normal in the US in many places on a holiday weekend. Without spoiling the plot entirely, well, okay, I'm gonna spoil the plot, like almost entirely, so just, I don't know, pretend that you didn't hear what I'm about to say. I don't know what to tell you. But the central character in the second Wakanda movie has a very hard choice to make. Someone that she loves has been harmed by someone that she trusted, and she wants revenge. In fact, she's consumed with the idea of revenge. So much so that she pursues it. And she is face to face with the person who has harmed this one that she loves. But this central character isn't just any ordinary person like you or me. She is a leader of an entire people. And so if she seeks revenge, it doesn't just impact her alone, right? It impacts an entire people who will be drawn into a war. And so just as she is about to enact revenge on this person who has hurt her so deeply, before her appears one of her ancestors who she is avenging. And this ancestor tells her to stop. Even as the rage and the hurt and the anger is filling her, only allowing her to see that gray wall or that spear or that rope, she receives this ancestor's wisdom. And indeed, she pulls back the blade. The war is stopped, and there is peace between her people and another people. Now, it's unlikely that any of us are going to be holding a spear to a world leader and starting a war. And yet, in our lives, we have opportunities to stop generational battles, to bring peace, ease, understanding. We have the power to decide how we will treat a sibling, a parent, a complete stranger. Sometimes when these very same people seem to treat us with complete indifference, or as Kathy described, there's been years of silence or misunderstanding and fissures, we get a moment where we are invited to move outside the rope that we are certain we are holding, or the sphere on our cheek, and try to understand the world from this other person's perspective, to try to understand the kernel of the truth in their existence. Not to agree with what has happened, not to say everything is okay to someone who has harmed us, but for a moment, to recognize that there's a greater creature called life, which we are sharing. We are, in fact, nourished by diversity, nourished by our differences, and seeking to understand the kernels of truth in each of them. Here at Beacon, we practice this deep listening in our community groups, in our small groups, not just because we want to be nice people. In fact, I'm not sure I want to be a nice person. But because we believe through deep listening, we can draw through our differences, through our diversities, greater truth and wisdom to understand this creature we are living. Pope Francis, who is increasingly struggling with his physical health, recently shared this wisdom. He said, "You can have flaws, be anxious, and even be angry, but do not forget that your life is the greatest enterprise in the world. Being happy is letting the creature that lives in each of us live free, joyful, and simple. You have the maturity to be able to say, 'I've made mistakes.' It's having the courage to say, 'I'm sorry.' It's having the sense to say, 'I need you.' It's having the ability to say, 'I love you.' May your life," he concludes, "become a garden of opportunities for happiness, that in spring he may be a lover of joy, and in winter a lover of wisdom." How did Pope Francis discover this truth? A man who is certainly flawed and has his own failures and limited ability to understand. It was not, he tells us, by honing in on one single truth of the world. Compassion is drawn from many tributaries of connection. It is in the asking of others that we find not only the perspective that we have missed, but something even greater. We find beneath the violence and the fear and the hurt and the hardness in this world, there is a deep spring of joy that we each long to drink from. Regardless of the particularities of our pain, there is, as one minister of this community taught, beneath it all a unity of spirit. When we can tune into the awarenesses behind the differences of our own story and stop shouting about the ropes, walls, and spears, and bad breath, we begin to move from wise fools to wise ones. As we continue in a most charged time in our country that only seems to get worse of late, and a season that can be filled with frenzy and complicated people, not the least of which we are some, may we journey with a humility that allows our hearts to listen, our hands to open, and our souls to be nourished by all that we do not yet understand. So may it be this day and in the days we are gifted. Amen.
Amen. We're going to sing "Where You Go, I Will Go," a song by Shoshana Jedwab. Now, it's not in the hymnal, so I'm going to read the words. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you to everyone who led the service today. Also to our AV team who helps you here, and it helps the people who are watching online here, our ushers, greeters, people who brought bread, and especially the congregation. And this song has the words, "Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people, Your divine, my divine. We're going to do each section a couple of times, so if it's not quite familiar at the beginning, it probably will be by the end. Would you please stand in body or spirit if you like, and join in singing. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. And your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. You're divine. You're divine, my divine. You're divine. You're divine, my divine.
Thank you, Misa, and thank you, John. As Jermaine comes forward to lead our closing benediction, if this is your first or second Sunday, I invite you forward at the end of our service to follow Jermaine for a brief tour with important details like where the restrooms are located, where coffee's being served in the upper balcony, and how you can get some of our bread from Bread Communion.
Priorities, the priorities. May the goodness and steadfast love be made known to you this week. During this season when Thanksgiving is so popular, may the blessings you take time to reflect on be reminders that goodness is never in short supply, and that we have countless reasons to be thankful. When you're tempted to allow your days to be defined by the things that would lead you to wander away from your morals, may you find time to pause and center yourself and redeem your troubled days. May your heart be filled with an overwhelming sense of peace and an abundance of gratitude. May you rest in the assurance that you are loved. Completely, uniquely, and beyond measure. May this love kindle within you a yearning to reach out to those who need you, whose beloved faces you can picture in your mind's eye, as well as the strangers who you haven't met yet. May you work for justice, cling to kindness, and walk humbly with your fellow wanderers in this world. May you live for one another like never before, with open hands, minds, and hearts. Not just during the short days of this Thanksgiving season and when things get hard, but for each and every single day you have to come. May they be many. May they be blessed. Amen. Ashe.